Well, Dustin, we're doing it.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, everyone, for another Tuesday edition of A Place at Home's LinkedIn Live broadcasts. My name is Mitch Benson, and I'm the franchise development manager here. And I'm excited to be talking with Dustin Distefano, CEO and co-founder. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. Excited to talk a little bit about the senior living industry outlook in 2023 and beyond, right? And as you and I are kind of dancing around the office thinking about what we're discussing today, uh, I kind of latched on this sort of like, I don't know, three-piece story of the senior care industry, and would love to kind of get your thoughts on it and your outlook of where the industry is going. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm kind of thinking of where the industry kind of started, like where have we been, starting that first year here, sharing more about where we are now here in the middle part of the story, and then as our industry continues to evolve, where are we headed, right? Where's all of that going, right? And by the end of this, it'll be like a textbook. They should pretty much just type this out and teach it after the fact, right?
We have
It's
a
gonna be a lot of
ghostwriter
knowledge.
next door.
There we go. Yeah. Just like that, right?
Yep.
Well, to give the best, I think, ideas of where, industry trends are going this year and beyond, it kind of helps us to take a step back and think a little bit about, how did senior care start, right? Has it always been, an opportunity to bring somebody into your house and help care for your loved ones? Not from what I'm saying so much, right?
Mhm.
And we talk so much about our aging population now, the baby boomer generation, who is currently using a lot of our services, but they themselves made choices for their loved ones years ago about what they needed as far as care for mom and dad, right? Decades ago at this time, and there's a handful of options that they could pick from, right? I think probably the most comfortable thing, right, is to take care of your loved ones yourself, essentially becoming a family caregiver, right?
Yep.
That's what we all wanted. That's what the industry is seeking to emulate, right? Is that kind of in-person, one-on-one care of helping folks, right? And as that started to grow, we found a growing need for senior living, right? A place where our clients could essentially move to, right, and become residents of those areas, right? And so that was such a huge growth. If we look back at where that goes, is so many different areas of senior living. I mean, Dustin, how many different kinds of senior living there are today, right? Independent living, I mean, all over the place, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got independent living, assisted living, memory care, long-term care, hospice homes. You have residential care. You have in-home senior care. You have in-home health. There's many different ways. You have hospitals, right? Many different
Yeah,
ways to care for loved ones. Obviously, hospital is very short term,
yeah.
but that usually feeds into one of those other ones we just mentioned.
Hmm. Yeah, well, exactly. So many avenues and so many places for folks to go, right? And I think that this is what really kind of started the senior living industry, right? Is a residence itself, and that years ago was a great place to go, right, and a great option for a lot of families, right? Uh, would you say the sentiment has changed, as time has gone on? Is that not quite the same feeling most people get when considering that kind of place?
Repeat that question, Mitch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So essentially now we're looking at a lot of families in the current senior living area are trying to avoid moving towards maybe a
Yeah.
skilled nursing facility. Would you agree with
Yep.
that?
Yeah. I mean, it's getting more and more expensive by the day.
Mm-hmm.
Staffing's an issue, and then the facilities are. That's my passion. When you ask, as CEO and co-founder of Replace Home, what was my passion behind this business? My great grandmother, both of my great grandmothers, not my current grandmother, she's still happy at home in her 80s. Um, but my great grandmothers both went into facilities in rural America, one of which was okay with, she was a social butterfly, but one that did not want to be there. And that's what really drove me personally into looking at this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what a lot of families do. I mean, when we first started this company, every family I talked to wanted to find out ways to keep mom at home as long as possible. And the senior themselves definitely wanted to find out ways to stay at home because the facility just wasn't something they wanted to go into.
Well, exactly. I think you hit probably one of the biggest barriers for families to do that is rising costs, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
It's astounding, what it could take for families to be able to afford this, right? Uh, but I also think you touched on it too, is that our clients themselves are looking for other ways to stay at home, right? It makes sense to everybody on the call, but we can prove it. Folks do better when they're in familiar areas, right? They do better
Right.
when they're at home, ideally surrounded by family. But now we have a great opportunity here to help with that, right? And
Yeah.
so, man, the facility costs are off the charts. Everything that the costs inside the facility itself. I'm thinking of food, of activities, things, and like that. All of that is rising as well, and it's creating a pretty big problem for a lot of families who are in a position where their loved one needs some sort of help, right?
Mhm.
And of course, you were in that situation, like you mentioned, with your own family members, right? Well, talk to me a little bit about how you managed that. You eventually got into your passion of providing care at home, but when you were in that position there, did you scour a lot of different sources here? What was that like to search for opportunities for your loved ones?
Well, it was not. I didn't manage that situation. I
Gotcha.
was living in Arizona at the time, but my mother, and not even my mother, honestly, it was my great aunt,
Hmm.
managed that situation, and it was tough. I mean, first they
Yeah.
had to figure out how to pay for it. Right, this lady grew up on a farm. She
Yeah.
was in rural America. She didn't have a lot of money to pay for this. Then she had to learn the insurance aspect. What did it cover? What didn't it cover? Then you have to learn
Mm,
about Medicaid. When can she qualify for Medicaid? One of the
mm,
biggest saddest things about that happened that I was really passionate about is they basically they seized is a wrong word, but they took possession of the
yeah.
home in order to pay for care. And at the time, I'm like, man, this isn't fair. But today, after being in the industry for 10 years, you got to get paid. The government has to get
Mm,
paid. The taxpayers can't pay 100% of this. So
mm,
seeing that, I understand it. Do I think it's fair? And there's other solutions to be had out there. There definitely are. I think home care is a very good solution. The problem that we're running into in this industry, which you're probably going to get into, is labor's tough, right?
mhm. Yeah.
Regulation is always increasing. You have a lot of congressmen and women, senators, and upper levels who've never experienced senior care in their entire life, trying to make rules about it.
Mm,
In particularly years ago, when the Department of Labor came in and changed the caregiver exemption law for overtime, that was a huge, huge shift in cost, right? Yes, the employees getting now they qualify for overtime. Just to give a brief background, overtime it was an exempt position at the time. I think this was
mm,
back in like 2013 or 14ish. Um,
mhm.
it was an exempt position, meaning that they could work 60 hours a week in the home. It's not heavy duty work. A lot of times they're sleeping or they're just there to be with them.
Yeah.
Well, the Department of Labor didn't like that. That changed it, which then took our bill rates from 22, 23 to 25, 26. And now I'm
Mm,
jumping way ahead of the gun here to today's world. I think our average bill rate's 31. Obviously,
mhm.
current inflation all across the United States is hitting. So it's just so many different barriers that are giving access to seniors right now that are
Mm.
shifting the senior care like not conundrum, pendulum or whatever that word is. Mitch, you're better with
Yeah.
English than I am. But it
Yeah.
just keeps on moving. And then as a home care, leader, trying to keep up with it and talking to other providers and listening to their stories. The nice thing about being a franchisor, I hear it from every single state, right?
Mm,
I know
mhm,
every state. I've ran into states that don't even let home care almost exist,
mhm.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Louisiana, right? It was very, very
Yeah.
difficult to get into there, and their resources are limited. So just all these different barriers are really shifting and making it difficult.
Mhm, mhm.
And I know I went on a little tangent there, but it really,
Yeah.
really gets me going.
Yeah. Well, and it's perfect because I think there's a lot of similarities between maybe where our services started as a senior care industry. Costs were always a big factor of whether or not families could move forward with it, right?
Mhm.
And at the time, the sentiment was like living in senior communities is a positive thing, and there's still a lot of folks who do really well with that, though. Many more individuals are considering home being their primary option, right? That has been a shift. That's been a shift in our client themselves. Yet a similar challenge has stayed through from where we were to where we are now, which is,
Mhm.
how do we pay for this, right? And of course, you're talking from the entrepreneur side. How do you make sure that clients themselves can afford this care, as well as those caregivers delivering the service can get paid what they need, right? And now I think this is the new frontier of making this option accessible for more and more families. Of course, regulation doesn't help when we can't necessarily enter, particular jurisdictions, when it just the hoops to jump through don't make it worth it for anybody, and the client suffers at the end, right?
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, I think that that's a big piece of it, right? And we spend so much time, you and I and everybody here, in the senior care world, but rising costs in our current day and age, where we are now, that's every industry, right?
Yeah.
Everything's going up, right? And so are there ways that we can kind of share with, commiserate with everybody who, success depends on connecting a large group of people with a large, group of customers, or those folks who need that kind of care? I mean, how do we get through it? How do we help with, some staffing costs in home care?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of ideas
Yeah.
on that, but I would say, the first thing is that, yeah, our average bill rate's now $30 an hour. You're right. Everything is going up.
Yeah.
The problem is that you have one entity, right? You have
Mm,
the Department of Labor and all these different states that are increasing minimum wage, which should, I'm all about giving opportunities to people. I mean, I'm a person who will invest in a caregiver, bring them into the office, develop them, give them raises, and turn them into something spectacular if they buy into if they buy into the brand, right? I'll do that all day. But
mhm,
when you keep increasing payroll rates, what's going to happen is you're going to keep increasing bill rates. Or, so there's things they can do like credits, right? I think that we as home care agencies should get tax credits,
mhm,
right? If we got tax credits, that could keep us to kind of bring down that level of care, but that's not there. Then you have the lower income individuals on Medicaid waiver. There's like literally a handful of states, five,
mhm,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states that I know have decent. Nebraska being one of them, Oregon being one of them.
mhm,
Colorado's pretty good as well. Tennessee, I heard, is pretty good. I haven't really done. I've heard from that, but the other states are crap. You got your biggest
mhm,
states like Texas. We would $19, $20 an hour reimbursement. You're not going to get care from an agency like ours to do that.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
then you also have, I mean, and then you mentioned the regulation. I'm actually for regulation. I'm for
Yeah.
regulation, but I'm also for participation in regulation. Like if you're
Yeah.
going to regulate a state, maybe talk to the home care agencies and let us be involved in the conversation so you're not strong arming us out or
Mhm.
hurting our labor force, right?
Yeah.
Some states have said before you would require a CNA to provide caregiving services. If you
Mhm.
see the CNA workforce right now,
Mhm.
that makes it very, very hard on us. So then what do you have? You have a supply and demand issue that continues to go this way.
Mhm.
Demand, supply, increased
Mhm.
cost. Government doesn't want to pay for it.
Mhm.
15% of probably the country can pay for it long term,
Mhm.
right? Or those
Mhm.
with very advanced diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's, they have no
Yeah.
resources if they don't have
Mhm.
buku bucks, right?
Mhm.
It's an unbelievable problem for that middle
Yeah.
lower,
Mhm.
middle upper. That's
Mhm.
a squeeze, right? The
Yeah.
lower can do Medicaid waiver through private caregivers, family caregiver programs, things like that.
Mhm.
The high end individuals, they have the long term care insurance policy, they have the private pay. It's that middle class that's really getting hurt right now,
Mhm.
and there needs to be something done about it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so you've kind of touched on some options for families that are, I think, becoming harder to access. When you may have had a Medicaid opportunity here, but that particular reimbursement that you as the family have no say in, what we as the provider have no say in, right? And ultimately, we're trying to make sure a caregiver can be paid adequately to come do their great work, and that is not rising with all the other costs, right?
No.
That becomes very difficult to do. And ultimately, we're turning toward our workforce themselves and saying, all right, as we move forward in our industry, the trends we see from 2023 and beyond, right? It's making sure there are ways for great care staff members to do what they are great at doing at ways that address what they're going through from an economic standpoint, right? How do we get that kind of world for them to help out, right? How can we get them pay rates that are in line with bill rates from families and support all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of suggestions there, a lot of ways to get that done. And, franchises like ours, independent, home care agencies are all thinking about this, but the trends are headed that way, right? How can we make sure that our, that line that you drew earlier, right, gets addressed, right? We have a dwindling, we have a labor shortage like any other business that is working with people themselves, right? How do we focus on that, make it better for them to get into the homes of clients who need their help at affordable ways that support them and their families as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we get there, ultimately it's going to be a solution that I think non-medical home care is better positioned to solve, right?
Yeah.
When a lot of our series here over these past few weeks have been discussing blog content that we work on for our website. And when you go to a placeathomefranchise.com and view our blog here, you're going to talk about a lot of the pains that large-scale skilled nursing facilities are going through, right? Dustin, as you and I have described here, there's a pay rate issue with some reimbursement sources. Well, that is also what's happening in facility living, right? But given that their kind of rock bottom reimbursement from their sources stay the same, all of their costs have risen to the point where, hundreds in the past years here of skilled nursing facilities have had to just go out of business, right?
Yeah.
Because of all of those stacked costs, right? And now that solution is still definitely important for all those individuals who need to live there. But in home care, we can take out of so many of those base costs, right? It's people. All of those sorts of things get more manageable, right? And when we kind of think of that, some of those base costs are removed, and we can really help address the key solution here, which is finding great, individuals to come into our business. This is going to move forward into the next year, right?
Yeah.
And when you look forward, right, if labor is one thing that the entire world needs to be considering here, what might be some solutions that you've thought of? I know you had a few in the back of your mind here to help connect great people with great opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, number one, if we're talking labor, is immigration. I think that there's a huge opportunity with immigration. I've gone down that route. I think that there should be a special work visa for immigrant workers to come over with healthcare that we can train in healthcare. What this does too is opens up opportunities for female immigrants, right? Farmers have been doing it for years. Agriculture has been doing it for years. They get temporary work visas, primarily males, who can come over, go work the fields, work anything through the summer months, and then they can go back home. Can't remember the exact name of it, but this is where I ran into, and we were trying to mimic it. So why not give an opportunity? Now, this isn't obviously a seasonal business. This would be a temporary work visa to give people opportunities to come to America the right way, right? And then also get a job opportunity that they work very, very well in, right? If you look at the cultures, the Filipino culture, the Mexican culture, and other cultures around the world, they are very family centric. They can come over here, get a job to take care of someone, and they take it. I mean, personally, some of the best caregivers I ever had were Haitian. All right, they're unbelievable caregivers. You have Ukrainians who could come over here right now. But here's what I get, Mitch. Here's what I get. I go through this, and all I get is, well, the right side's not really going to work very well with the left side. So all we're going to do is run into this, and nothing's going to happen, right? So that's the starting point, is that we have to make healthcare a serious priority amongst our senators and our government to say, hey, find other solutions. We're not asking you to pay, right? Sure, it'd be great if you could reimburse us more through Medicaid and Medicare Advantage and all that, right? That'd be great. But how about you just give us the opportunity to bring people in so we can manage them, give them an opportunity, pay them at what you're telling us to pay them at, right? Either minimum wage or a little bit higher. I would pay higher. Train them and give them an opportunity. That's number one, is immigration. Number two, I think seniors themselves can kind of get, you have this tech industry of Airbnb. Yeah. There's probably some tech person who would watch this and steal my idea. So I got to be careful. The idea they can call me. But think of an Airbnb model where seniors can go on and find roommates. Right? Start to see this now where they can find roommates to then move in together for a short period. You did it in college, right? I moved in with a random person when I went to college. I had a blast. I made a friend, right? Think of a senior can move in with one or two other seniors into a residential. These are healthy, right? They don't need caregiving or anything. But if you want, they move in, those three people, they can share costs, right? They can buy food bills. They can split the utilities, right? They can really manage the inflation that we're dealing with right now if they can do that. So if you can create a technological platform, which I have no idea what I'm doing. If you have a technological platform where seniors can find like kind of like a dating game, almost not like that, but like I want to find a roommate, and then they move in together in Omaha, Nebraska, in a small house. And then if they live there for a long period of time and they're getting used to each other and they need caregivers, they can then hire, let's say, in a place home caregiver. Yes, we do couples care. There is a little added charge, but you're talking $5 more an hour. So now you just took $30 plus 5 at 35. Divide that by two people splitting that cost, and it's $7.50 an hour. Right?
Yeah.
Great opportunity to do something like that. Yeah. I think also the third one. Are we still going? I mean, I got like 6 minutes. I can go.
We got it all here, but I would love to touch on that too, because I think a big piece of what we have the opportunity, why we're given this opportunity to serve more seniors, is because our life expectancy is going up, generally speaking, for our elderly population. Right, this period of time where an able-bodied senior could be looking for that kind of active lifestyle with someone to share costs, to split rooms and things like that. That time period of our clients' lives is growing, right? Giving us that opportunity to serve them longer than we ever have before. And that, I think, is the beautiful upside to why we get to do what we do. It's because our seniors are healthier for longer, right? That's awesome. And we can have all these kinds of active lifestyles while considering what it's going to take to become prepared for when they do need more care for that, right? I think this is wonderful, right? Honestly, honest to me, that's going to be one of the best things there, right? And you heard it here first. You're going to see this on a commercial somewhere, and it's going to come out.
I might have to look into that myself now that I'm thinking about it. The Airbnb, the S Airbnb, but it's long term. So,
exactly.
I mean, think about it though. Think about our generation, Mitch, when we get older, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could be a roommate. I'll be 90. You'll be 75 or something like that. But still, that's fine. You're young enough to walk to the fridge, grab me a beer, and we can play Xbox. If I was a single senior, obviously, if I'm with my wife, that isn't going to work. But those and that model I'm talking about is for seniors that live alone. My grandma's lived alone for 20 years. Right. So think if someone moved into her second bedroom that she uses as like a storage or guest room, that maybe one or two people stay in a year to come and visit her, they can sit and talk. Right. The mental stimulation just by having that roommate. There's all these seniors out there that are single seniors that just isolate themselves. And then when they need care, their family members shop for them, and you go into the home and they're paying $35, but you could get a roommate and split the cost a little bit. So definitely an area of opportunity in that realm.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, you're solving the world's problems here. What else you got? You had a third?
Third. I mean, kind of going on what I said there. I think that residential care, our sister brand Legato Living that we started franchising recently. We buy homes, we renovate them, and we give and we house those with memory care and dementia. Here in Nebraska, we have a location opening up this fall through franchise owners Taylor and Cole Boat out on 192nd and Western. It's going to be a beautiful 14-bed house, right, in Five Fountains neighborhood. Well, again, this was a situation that we saw. I'm going to give you an ugly picture right now. If you have advanced dementia and you live in your house alone and you need one-on-one care 24/7, we do this real quick. Our average bill rate, Mitch, is 31, 30 an hour, right?
Right there. Yes.
30 times 24 times 7, $5,000 a week. Times that by 52, $262,000 a year for that care for that person with advanced dementia. 1% of the population can afford that, right? Now, what Legato does And so when me and Jared met Aaron Render, what we looked at was, all right, what can we do to lessen that cost? And it's the same thing I just said. We get roommates. We build a house,
Yeah.
make it senior friendly. 14 people can live there, and they pay $8,000 a month, and they have 2 or 3 caregivers that get. It's not one-on-one, but they have 2 to 3 caregivers taking care of them, making their meals throughout the day. I think that's another industry that's trending upwards. It is known. It's known as group homes or residential assisted living. It's a small industry right now, primarily in Arizona and Florida and Texas and California, but it's starting to expand. And I think that is going to be another one that grows. But I still like the roommate one just as better, just as good with private
Yeah.
caregivers. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's the solutions we got to find is how to reduce the cost. And I think it's going to come down to creating homes that can be shared so that we can use less staff, have bigger impact, reduce cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these are the two sides that we need to address when thinking of the industry trends, in senior care moving forward, right? How can we find ways for our clients to, approach affording and paying for these services, right? That are drawing on unique and creative ways for them to be able to fund this for themselves, for their families. And then that feeds into the second area here of how can we be sure, right, we're giving the most resource to that caregiver coming to the business and doing what they do best, which is caring for someone in their home, right? When those two can get together, right, ultimately we're providing a better opportunity for everybody, right? And I just love what residential assisted living has shared with, right, is kind of bringing down those costs comparatively speaking to, the assisted living or skilled nursing facility world, right, that we're looking at now. It's cheaper on average, right? So we're addressing that, barrier for those families to find that, while also offering the big benefit of smaller scale living. Though it's not one-on-one, it's closer than what we saw in big large campuses, and ultimately a better patient outcome for them, right, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
We can do this. I think those are going to be the basis, those driving factors for every trend we see in the coming years for senior care, is how can we make it more affordable for families and make sure the caregivers themselves are getting taken care of in ways that bring them back to this opportunity day in and day out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we almost got to be the pioneer. I mean, there's a lot of senior care companies out there, much bigger than a place and home. There's a lot of brain power that can be put into this. It's something that those leaders in the industry need to come together and not rely on, government agencies to find our answers.
Yeah.
So I think collectively we can do something about it, and we'll see where the future goes.
Absolutely. And I'm part of that collective is here with us today, everybody, right? We've got a lot of action, in our comments here at LinkedIn, and sharing with everybody around here and in Facebook and all of our channels of, our corporate staff, of franchisees, interested parties in and around the industry. There's just, like you say, this is the universal care team. This is the brain power. These are the folks day in and day out finding opportunities for our families, finding opportunities for our caregivers, and making this just a more workable solution to get everybody what they need, which is the opportunity to age at home safely, just how they deserve, right? And we're excited to be a part of it. This is awesome. We're making it happen, A big shout out to all of our franchise owners here at A Place at Home who work on this all the time as well, and creating opportunities for their caregivers to serve great clients. It's happening all over, and folks like us at corporate are thinking of ways to make that even better for them. Outside of our specific brand, there's many more that Dustin had mentioned doing the same things. So to me, the future is bright. There are challenges that everyone is seeing, right? But there's more opportunities and more space for us to do good work than to be hampered by the challenges. So I'm very excited to redo this in 2024 and beyond, right? We get a whole year between now and then. We can talk about all the great work we got to do.
Here's a little plug for all those listening for our franchise development team over here is that, as the leaders of these brands look, we need the soldiers, I guess you would say. And the soldiers are our franchise owners. These guys go out and execute the plans all over the country. They are always fighting, bringing us. I love talking to them about problems they're having in their markets, and
Mhm.
saying, all right, let's find a solution to that. And then you learn from that. And then you start to see it in another state. And you go to that state head on and you say, listen, this is the issue we just saw in Arkansas. Why would you do this? Right. And
Mhm.
it's educating them. And I challenge the home care owners, right? Because
Mhm.
again, you're boots on the ground to get involved in your state. There's always usually a state advocacy group, right? I'm on the board of the Nebraska Home Care Association, right? And I'm heavily involved in Nebraska because that's where I live. We're also very involved in the Home Care Association of America group.
Mm. Right.
Now, challenge not just the place homeowners, but every owner out there that's in
Yeah.
this business to get involved with those advocacy groups, find out what's going on, what's being talked about in DC, and
Mm.
being a part of the conversation. And one of the biggest thing, right? Get involved with it. It's always easy to talk about it, be about it, get involved with it, and don't say to yourself, "This is the problem." Home instead will handle that. I don't need to handle that. They'll handle it. If everyone thought like that, then no one's going to handle it. So
Mhm.
go in,
Yeah.
bring your challenges there, get involved in your state advocacy groups, and make a difference. And if
Mhm.
we have
Right.
states all over the country that need more people for place-owned franchisees to join this fight, call Mitch Benson.
Hey, there we go. We can connect you to all sorts of opportunities. Um, right here, this guy, this goofy looking dude right here, talk to you about it. So, Dustin, thank you. I really appreciate all of your insight of where you've seen the industry come from, what it looks like today, and where we're headed. I think a lot of great call to actions for a lot of folks interested in making a difference here. You can. There are people doing it right now. A lot of those folks are in these comments, making great and impactful contributions to their community. We hope just to see more and more of that happen, bringing great caregivers to opportunities to service great clients and make sure that everybody gets that chance to be at home for a little longer, a little safer, right? Overall, it's going to be a great opportunity moving forward. It's going to be great. And as Aubrey comments here, Dustin has said once more than once before, don't talk about it, be about it. We're going to see out there in the home care arena.
Right.
There it is. We got our spotlighted here.
There
Thank
we
you,
go.
Aubrey, for your comment. And speaking of Aubrey, right, next week, I'm going to head up another conversation with Aubrey, talking again about some of the challenges that we've seen in our industry, but in a unique way. When we see challenges with staffing here in our industry, it's actually driving more demand for it, right? And we want to talk about how to think about that that challenge and why it's a better opportunity to get involved and create more value in the market as well. So, Aubrey, I'll be talking to you soon. But for now, Dustin, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us and everybody here on the call today. And I look forward to talking with you again about senior care in the future.
All right. Do it again.
Let's do it. All righty.
Thanks, guys.
See you later, everybody. Bye bye.